a bold, young lady who really enters fully into life, I would say. And whatever she does it well. She does it with creativity. She does it with attention to details. And sort of has a joyful, kind of bubbly outlook on life. And it's really been fun getting to know her the last 4 years that she's been here. She's very talented in many things, in the arts, in sports, and as well as academic kinds of things. And the things I thought about when I thought of Eliza was that it seemed like I could always count on her for an answer when I asked a question, and other people might have been a little bit more not ready to answer quite as much, but gave an answer. And I really like that. And I do count it as being a privilege that I've gotten to know you and to have you in my class. So welcome.
I'm so grateful to all of you who are sitting in these seats for both your attendance and the impact you have made on my life. My high school years were magnetic, with moments of intense attraction and repulsion. I had this magnetic field around me of themes of victimization, the role of love and media, my prospective future, and personal insecurities. Like a magnet, I had two poles, and I was either pulled forcefully to moments and people, or strictly repelled. Today, I can stand before you and say that I've finally reached the point where I'm comfortable with this moment now. It is one for which I've both feared and longed. But contrary to other experiences I've had in high school, I hope to stay attracted to this moment and not be pulled away by thoughts or insecurities. At least for 20 minutes. Freshman year, I wanted people to be pulled to me. I wanted to be helped and cared for. Sometimes I would deliberately put on a sad face in the guidance office, hoping that either guidance counselor would see me and ask if I wanted to talk. There was a stubborn space between who I wanted to be and who I was. The first Thursday of freshman year, I was in the back corner seat of Dr. Bishop's room. With the chill sneaking in through the window and aggressively smacking in my back, I carefully rounded my characters to create words expressing my stress about the coming months. I wanted so badly to be successful, as evidenced by the many notes to myself detailing expectations. I quote from my freshman reflection, "Hi, Senior Eliza, you'd best be going to your dream school." I expected myself to end up being the newspaper editor, the first chair cellist, the member of touring choir, key member of the spring drama, the class president. It is difficult to have all of those aspirations when you have an inferiority complex. There was also distance between myself and the people around me. I remember walking down the tiled hallway beside the gym and feeling so stranded. Arts Day was a magnetic field of too much energy that I couldn't get through to get to my classmates and friends. As I walked down the halls the winter of freshman year, I repelled people because they were worried that I would ask them to be a part of Arts Day. Sometimes I broke down, and often I was so internally focused that I lost focus of the people who were there for me. I remember Emily Gordon sitting by my side during one of those tearful moments. Then, at the end of freshman year, Eden gave me a note that validated all I had done at Arts Day and other events. Actions like those were key in weakening the magnetic field swirling around me. Thankfully, during Arts Day, I also had the support of that year's sophomores, Jess Fergie and Claire Bush, the presidents of the sophomore class, to remind me of Arts Day's position in the grand scheme of things. What was not helpful, however, was that I cared deeply about what the senior class thought of our performances. I wanted to show Sam and his friends that my class and I were worth something. able to work through my mindset of being a victim through poetry. Nabokov talked in Speak Memory about making mistakes and writing words and verses that sounded good because he had heard stuff like it. I made those same mistakes freshman year, falling into trite verse. But Abby read my rhymes anyway. Even reading them now with a lingering inferiority complex, I can tell I had fire. And on the coral sticky notes with bubbly straw, Abby encouraged me never to give up. And with the encouragement of Beth Curtis, I wrote my first article for Document. It was about defining love. After that article, I wrote several vignettes and articles for Document thereafter, and eventually fulfilled my goal of being the editor senior year. I enjoyed working with Ariana and Courtney and Sarah and others this year with their articles. You guys have a lot of talent. I will be the #1 visitor of Document next year. Although creative writing was an outlet for me, my perfectionism played out in academics. I worked for the percentage points between a 95 and 100, and it was all a waste of time. I overworked and overstudied in geometry and biology. Fortunately, my heavy course load also gave me the opportunity to meet some amazing sophomores who lightened the load I put on myself. Jess and Abigail and I made the best Mexican cooking video, or maybe we just thought that it was the best, because we may or may not have baked out the alcohol all the way. We saw there was alcohol in the recipe, but we thought it would just get baked out. The problem was, it was a no-bake cake. Sophomore year, I began to pry myself away from that victim mentality. I was both motivated to help and motivated from helping people. I was pulled to people, and when not needed, I was forced to be distant and lonely and restless. I had so many activities going on to improve myself, but all I could do was think. My thoughts separated my current state from the state I hoped to be in. As a field hockey player and cellist, I worked up insane nerves by overthinking or living inside my head too much, preventing me from doing my best. I also overanalyzed people's actions and their words, which spiked insecurity. Sophomore year, however, was a step in the right direction for expressing myself intellectually. In Mrs. McTavish's American Literature class, I wrote imitation poetry and prose that dove into details of family members, difficult experiences, and the beauty that I encountered from day to day. This process helped me move on from the point of wanting to be helped to wanting to help. A lot of writing came out of the long winter months that, although it's clearly flavored with the sophomore slump, is writing that I treasure. For example, somehow I ended up writing a Walt Whitman imitation poem about crying, rendering a polite, "This is a bit blue," from Mrs. McTavish. As I worked through some friend, family, and internal struggles through writing, I also sought to understand myself spiritually, and reading aided my understanding. A prayer for Owen Meany helped me get over some skepticism and strip away everything from religion except for God. One of the reasons I was so repelled from God was because I thought that it was natural for everyone to find God in people, and I often found myself disappointed with the God I saw. Owen helped his friend Johnny and me not to expect perfection in humans' reflection of God, pulling me closer to the Creator and the created. Junior year, I wanted to help. I wanted to please, but I was caught up in busyness and perfectionism. I also lacked the ability that my friends clearly have, which is giving grace. I created distance between myself and others by having too high expectations of them, as I had for myself. I continued to wrestle with my own imperfections. When I did not make touring choir sophomore year, I was crushed. The second day of the third quarter of my junior year, while I was confidently huffing on the elliptical during my second gym of the day, Mr. Durstein bustled in, asking me if I was still interested in joining touring choir. I was a little flummoxed by the amount of changing of clothes I had to do throughout the course of the day, so touring choir blessed me in minor ones, just as it had in major. Mr. Durstein, throughout the course of high school, I felt separated from the notion of baptism, because publicizing my faith made me so nervous. You gave me an Thank you for giving me a chance to allow my South Pole to connect with the true North. I finally began to feel closer to expectations of myself, but I also realized that I was spread too thin to succeed deeply in music or athletics. Nevertheless, I poured my heart into both areas. Every summer before field hockey season, I trained 6 days a week doing interval runs and circuits. That work ethic granted me with a decreasing trend in my mile time and a couple of great seasons. Freshman year, I loved playing defense on the field with my fellow defensive powerhouse, Sarah Mattis. The seniors that year were always vocal in their encouragement, making me want to work even harder. The next year, however, Coach Sherry asked if I would try goalie. She thought that I had footwork that suited the position, but I don't think she knew that I had incredibly poor reflexes, and I was not great under pressure. I also really enjoyed playing defense on the field, as I previously stated. But it was just a trial, right? It took me a long time to suit up for the first time because I had no idea how to put the pads on, and I guess I was a little reluctant too. Sophomore year, I played half field defense, half goalie, and I so appreciate my coaches, Lindsay, Michelle, and Coach Sherry for making that possible. Junior year, I stepped up to varsity goalie after Emanuela got cast in the musical and did amazing, by the way, as Lottie Childs in The Music Man. Yes, I struggled with the pressure of being the last defender and often attributed losses to my own mistakes, but gradually I was able to graduate from that mindset to one focused on the team of inspiring, encouraging, talented girls. We had a great season my junior year, becoming league champs, and senior year we were co-league champs. A highlight of senior year hockey was when I saved a stroke in the Lower Moreland game. Missing the ball during senior night and losing in overtime to New Hope was by far the lowlight. Afterwards, however, the celebration was more meaningful because it wasn't a celebration of a win, but a celebration of us as people, as teammates. It was a gesture that, win or lose, we will embrace. And at our last district game, we embraced on the field almost too long. I told myself I wouldn't cry, but I felt my face cramp up as I high-fived the other team. They were tears of joy, though. To my fellow senior hockey players, aka Dream Team, Jenny, Matea, Madison, Brooke, Sarah, and yes, Emily, I want you guys to know that I'm forever thankful for your support and patience with me as goalie, and I respect you all. I truly enjoyed playing with all of you, and I will miss suiting up for the game with you. I also poured my heart into cello despite my lack of time. I didn't have much musical raw material to work with either, as both my parents suffer from minor tone deafness. But when I had time to go to lessons, when I had time to sit down and become absorbed in the melodies and the deep resounding voice of a cello, I felt like the cello was a part of me and my song. In junior year, Mrs. Lorcas became the next conductor of the orchestra. She shared my passion, my connection with music. She encouraged me to stretch myself as a musician and cared about me outside of the ensemble. A highlight of junior year, and probably my entire high school academic career, was Global Citizens. We debated about solutions to current problems in China, Syria, and Israel-Palestine. Whereas on the social issues trip I felt cornered by immovable injustice, I enjoyed zooming out, looking at the big picture, and trying to argue and look for solutions. Global Citizens is the reason I am considering international relations as a major. Mr. King had an incredible ability to facilitate discussion and kept his room open if I had ever needed to ask him about anything, from the Iron Triangle to the validity of atheism to income disparity. While I enjoyed the debates on foreign policy, the intensity of AP Bio may have caused me some stomach ulcers. We hit the ground sprinting, and I was afraid I would be left behind. I would study those packets for hours and carried around that outline book everywhere. Mrs. Mass gave tough love when needed and taught brilliantly during that rush of information. that ice queen voice with pride. An experience that got me closer to others was tutoring at Dock Village. I've tutored there since sophomore year, and I connected especially with Fiza, Matthew, and Muriel. We giggled and discussed future plans over games of 24. Honestly, they always beat me in 24, and probably could have tutored me. Nevertheless, Dock Village counteracted the feelings of distance. After a winter of closing gaps, I became consumed with test preparation, repelling me again from others. I remember coming home from senior speeches last year and seeing my brother Sam's car in the driveway. He was home for 3 weeks before his summer internship had started, and I had been entirely consumed in ACTs and SAT prep books to talk to him for more than 30 minutes combined in the course of 3 weeks. I was so frustrated at myself for not giving him room to connect with me. I found myself prioritizing my promise of success in the future over the present people in my life. I even found myself uttering the words to my mom, "Life isn't about spending time with people you love." Also, the summer before senior year, I shared a key part of my Chicago service trip experience with the church. I talked about how I was overthinking giving to people on the street. I talked about the uselessness of the mind when it came to generosity, and how our job can sometimes just be making someone's life better today. It doesn't need to be a huge impact or systematic change every time there is a change made. Just this past March, when the choir went to New York City to sing at Carnegie Hall, I tested out what I had learned. Cheese Out convinced me to get this cake that was layers of crepes. But when I saw all these people on the street, and when I saw Susie and Natalie giving granola bars to them, I knew that I had to part with the possible life-changing culinary experience. This was a turning point for me when it came to generosity and spirituality. I learned that being a follower of Christ is being willing to give up what you love the most, losing your life to gain it. I could have eaten that cake, and it would have been delicious, but I would have forgotten about the cake. I will never forget the ring of his God bless as I sat the box beside him. Senior year, once my future was secured, I could finally enter the moment. I felt neither repelled nor attracted to violently because I controlled my north and south poles. I started closing gaps I found around me. I led cake and culture with a ton of help with some of the amazing underclassmen around me, like Malia Haynes and Danica Moyer, and the ever-helpful, organized and caring Juliana Kabachian. This event occurred at lunch, and international and American hosts and guests were able to bring desserts and gifts and connect with each other. And although there was no intrinsic artist in me, catching up with the moment allowed me to improve and surprise myself artistically. Using the confidence that finally budded from years of Jen Sigmund's helping me with play tryouts and choir auditions, I embraced the stage. I learned a week before spring drama auditions were supposed to be that there was no director. So I did what any confident, sane mind would have done. I went to Susie and asked if she would direct the play with me. Having scoured the book room for plays, we presented our plans to Mr. Weems. He resolutely and sanely announced that he would not allow that responsibility to fall completely on student shoulders. Dr. Bishop brought Emily Rittenhouse's name up, and I'm so glad he did. Mr. Weems was right. Even with the most humorous and resilient cast, Alex, Susie, Jess, and I couldn't have put on that play by ourselves. But we did it due to Emily's leadership and support. Susie's mom was a pretty big help too. Emily, even the Get Well Soon package doesn't suffice as a thank you for all that you did. Thank you for not only stepping in, but doing so with humor, organization, knowledge, and creativity. I learned to give 90% of myself to my schoolwork instead of 100%, leaving 10% for other people to come in. Although CAP did take up a lot of my time, I enjoyed learning not only skills in math, but skills in patience from Mr. Yoder. Relaxing my tightly wound perfectionist strings allowed Bible studies with Susie Wednesday mornings, and one time I got lost on the way from her house to school, having to explain the whole thing to a forgiving Mr. Weems and Mrs. Gayton. Jen and I sat next to each other at breakfast, and she was always willing to give me a ride if I was ever afraid to drive somewhere. I had fun playing tennis with Becca and laughing during gym and lunch. Michaela encouraged me to embrace life. She was relentless in her adventures, bringing me along to welcome spring, even if it meant trudging through snow at Peace Valley Park, having to dry our socks on the dashboard of her truck. Michaela, you are the peanut butter to my jelly, without the peanuts. Tali and I roomed together for about a week during hockey season, and I wish she was coming to college with me, because we were the perfect roommates. But I'm sure our raw and awkward text conversations will continue long after I moved up. I was able to exercise my love of baking by baking cookies by the dozen to help a Romanian orphan get to college. I also had a blast taking cooking classes with my dad and Sonia. Being a senator instead of class president energized me because I was able to create my own agenda instead of following one. Mrs. Grega used the term mediating when she referred to my editing and listening to conversation about the dress code and other issues at DOC. I got inspired to pursue a job where I could mediate, listen to two sides of the story, and determine the middle ground and next steps. Mrs. Grega's words of wisdom and encouragement were always thoughtful and personal, and therefore much appreciated. My family has also played a huge role in the journey throughout high school. Sam, I remember our runs through the neighborhood, through the dense summer air, and you've kind of been a guardian angel running with me this whole time. I truly have enjoyed growing up with you, giving you outfit and girl advice. Some of your words have lifted me up and propelled me through high school. Eva, we've definitely had our struggles, but I have to say I love you a lot. We don't agree on much at all, but I think we agree that we both love each other. You had my back so many times, even if it was just grabbing some unsalted butter at the grocery store. And you always asked me how my day went, even if I never asked you about yours. Isaac, you have so much potential. Promise me you will use it to help others, because you can make some waves in people's lives. Thanks for pushing me to be better, smarter, faster, stronger. Watching you grow this year, stepping outside of your comfort zone and accomplishing so much, made me excited to see what you do next. Keep me updated, okay? Dad, in the words of my dear friend Nabokov, I love sharing homespun nonsense with you. You understand my critical and demanding, yet compassionate and sensitive nature better than anyone else. Seeing you makes me smile because I know you're cheering me on. Mom, we are so alike, even though the lines on our faces don't overlap. You make me want to be a more spiritual, better person. When our similar hands join, when our eyes meet and smile, I can only hope to become even more like you. To my extended family, church family, and Emmy, your support was frequent. You came to concerts, dramas, and field hockey games, and I valued it. It made every right note I played and every goal I saved mean more because you saw it. You're an amazing group of people, and I'm blessed to be related to you. Next year, I will be attending Wesleyan University in Connecticut and majoring in international relations. I hope to eventually be a mediator on an international level, someone who can help to make peace and to promote understanding. My comfort with this moment stems from my expectations blending with, instead of being repelled from, my reality. I've accomplished all that I've set out to accomplish, and the makeup of my magnetic field has changed. No longer is the energy swirling around me, draining me, and inhibiting my expression, but it is feeding it. I'm ready to face Wesleyan head-on with the mentality that I'm not a victim or a perfectionist, but I'm someone who can deal with the pressure a goalie faces, who can feel the passion of a musician, and most important, who can be pulled up close enough to life to embrace it and find its joy.